you. Who's going to win? Monty.
Calcano.
Will.
It's Jake.
All right, we're going to find out whose one word was correct. It's time for the finals here at Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings. Cedric and Paul have the call.
Thank you so much, Maria and Monty, and of course, Will Hall. Me? I'm Cedric. That's Paul. We're going to crown a champion here, my friend.
It's time.
It really is. 3 days.
Goodness.
3 days of competition. 269 players is where we started this weekend at Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings here in Barcelona. Whittled away some after day number 1. Whittled away quite a few more in day number 2. Cut to our top 8. And those players have battled it out in some pretty wild matches. But Paul, 2 currently stand tall. Christian Calcano, a grinder's grinder, if there ever was one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw, I mean, speaking of grinding, his last match
yeah.
against Simon Nielsen was quite a grind. Now, he got a little bit of a break, right? So he's got to reset here, start all over. Now, this matchup, I mean, we thought his last matchups were going to be quick. This one's also going to be quick because when you talk about Jake Beardsley's deck, it's really explosive. Its whole plan is to just try to get you dead as quickly as possible with all the different disruption elements he has early.
On the other side of things, it is newcomer to the Pro Tour and making one heck of a debut. It is Jake Beardsley, someone who might be new to this level of competition but is not new to Magic, has been playing this game for a very, very long time, has finally made it here, and could be a Pro Tour champion in his debut.
When's the last time that even happened?
Boy, it's rare. It has happened a couple of times in Magic's history, but my goodness, is it rare. And it's an accomplishment in and of itself to be at this stage of the tournament here in the finals. And speaking of the finals, it is underway here from Barcelona. Both players are going to keep 7 hands. Calcano will kick things off with a Chromatic Star via a Urza's Power Plant.
Jake just kind of has it all here in the opener. Has the option of either going Fury into Undying Malice or just Drew Grief. Can do either.
It is hard to pass up on the discard avenue. This Rakdos Evoke deck loves the start of Grief plus bringing it back. And we'll see if Jake wants to go that way or establish a clock with Fury and then discard spells after that.
Right, Fury doubles the clock, so it really is interesting. Oh, wow, and going for the aggressive plan. And, you know, I think part of why I think Jake might be going for this, not only, of course, it's twice the clock, he's got a Thoughtseize in hand as well.
Yeah, he's got a Thoughtseize and a Grief in hand, right? So can really just shred apart Calcano, and then Calcano will have to peel himself out of the situation while being clocked. You know, earlier in the day, we were watching Tron play against Rhinos. And that was the Rhinos game plan, right? Which was get ahead with crashing footfalls and then keep Tron off base with some sort of counter spell. Well, that starts on turn 3. This starts on turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And one notable thing in Christian Calcano's deck, because of course he did not test with Team Handshake. Team Handshake had some additional answers here for a turn 1 Fury. They were playing 3 copies of Dismember Main. Christian playing the more traditional version, none of that. So this Fury is just going to continue to just chip away, or chunk away rather, at Christian Calcano's life total. It's a 3-turn clock.
It is. Now Calcano over the last handful of draw steps, pardon me, well, he's found a tower to go along with that mine, that power plant. So Tron will be online for the calculator. Warping Whale, Karn the Great Creator, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger are the other cards. But for now, it'll be a Thoughtseize.
Gonna need something off the top here, though, Christian. Does have Tron, but will be able to go Thoughtseize and Grief this turn.
Yeah, and this will be an interesting situation because for Jake, he can't pick it all apart. This turn, he could take Karn Liberated, and he could Grief Karn the Great Cruel. He could take the Karn and then take the Ugin. Warping Whale can buy time, and of course, Calcano is not that far away from Ulamog, so can't take every powerful card at this stage of things.
Yeah, Ugin is the next most likely heavy hitter that Calcano can play, so could see Jake going for that with the Grief. Could also choose to wait.
Yeah, and I think he is just going to wait right now and say, basically, you know, don't draw like a Wormcoil Engine or something. Don't draw the nuts.
Yep, no Karn Liberated off the top. A lot of good draws here for Christian.
Let's see what Calcano does draw. He picked up a copy of Chromatic Sphere. That's technically a whiff. It's also a redraw, of course, but it's not one of those heavy hitters.
Yeah, remember, Christian can use that Warping Whale to generate a chump blocker, which could potentially buy him an entire turn. So Jake Beardsley has a fatal push in hand in case that happens. He knows about the Warping Whale. So Jake also knowing that if he casts the Grief, he kind of wants to take the Ugin, but he can wait a turn.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to get it this turn because Christian's going to go up to 7 mana. So waiting to see what he draws. If he draws a different black card, perhaps he can go Grief and still keep up Fatal Push for the Warping Whale token to buy himself that extra turn.
Both these players putting each other to the test right off the bat here in the finals. Beardsley with a great opening hand. Calcano, Tron came together on turn number 3. So let's see. Calcano.
We just find a Worm Coil.
The sphere allows for a card
easy
draw.
way.
Yeah, it could be on this redraw. It could be Worm Coil Engine. And now we're going to filter that colorless into a green mana. So a draw coming from the sphere. It's a copy of the One Ring, and
Mana.
that does a great job of bridging the gap.
Oh, that is a very, very big draw here.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
not only does this effectively fog that Fury for a turn, but it also does a nice job of overcoming the grief because
Right.
Calcano has protection
That was such a great draw.
and more cards coming.
Right, more cards coming, and now Christian next turn, coast is clear to just slam Ugin.
That's right. And from there, it's not too tough to win.
No, it is not, especially at 12. Fury will not be able to deal damage this turn.
Go to me. Yeah.
That's about as good as it gets here for Christian Calcano.
We're going to head back over to Jake now. And he's picked up another copy of Fury, but that one's not nearly as good as the first one. Pluto Delta will be the land.
Go.
And all Jake can do is pass the turn back. Calcano will put a burden counter on the One Ring. A new card is coming to Christian.
And if Christian just finds a tower,
It could be
just,
Ulamog.
Could just be Ulamog time next turn.
And Christian now has also drawn a copy of Karn the Great Creator. You're going to see a brief pause here from Calcano because there may be some interest in playing Warping Whale at the end step to be able to generate a Scion token. And a Scion token, well, the blocking aspect of that doesn't really matter. The mana generation is what Calcano may be interested in.
Absolutely, because now, instead of just tower, he can draw any Urza land here
That's right.
to generate 10 mana to play the Ulamog in his hand.
That's right. And that is going to resolve. So now Calcano is going to lose a life and fall down to 11.
Yes.
He'll draw a card for the turn.
Okay, here
you
we
mentioned
go.
any Urza land is going to do it. Expedition map is sort of an Urza's.
Right, but you got 2 more draws here with the ring.
If you want to take them. Yeah, if you want to take
If you
them.
want. Remember, no shortage of great options here for Christian Calcano. Even if he doesn't find an Urza land here, can just run out the Ugin, get that Fury off the battlefield if he wants.
Yeah, Ugin is not a bad consolation prize in a situation like this. And truth be told, partner, Ugin may just be good enough on its own.
Oh, yeah.
There is the Beseiju. Now, it is also entirely possible that there might be a third avenue here,
It'd just be a Karn.
and it is
Great
Karn the
Creator.
Great Creator.
Okay.
So Calcano's going to tick that Karn from 5 down to 3 loyalty, and it's going to actually start to D up behind an ensnaring bridge.
Okay.
Sure. They bridge.
And this is another card that makes it very difficult for Beardsley to win this game,
Right.
because Calcano can basically get cards out of his hand. That Fury is much too large to attack.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything in the main deck that Jake has that can just kill an ensnaring bridge.
And then what Calcano can do from here is, who can shoot you. And
Take your
it's
time.
it's elementary
Right.
from that point.
Yeah, so Jake at this point,
16.
number 1 card that he wants to find here is that 1 copy of Blood Moon that he has in his deck.
Yeah,
Still
perhaps.
probably not enough.
Yeah, I don't
but
think it would be. And this goes to show you the power of both of these decks, Paul.
Right.
Jake with a great start with Fury right into play directly as a 4/4, follow up with Thoughtseize, potentially follow up with a Grief.
Oh, yeah.
And then on the other side of things, Calcano's deck firing on all cylinders with Tron on turn 3 into the One Ring into, well, this.
Yep. Jake had the ideal start, right? This is exactly what he wanted. Turn 1 Fury, turn 2 Thoughtseize, but Christian with that timely One Ring off the top. Big, big turn there. Now I'm wondering if you're Jake, you look back at that turn where you chose not to Grief. Would it have been better to just play the Grief that turn?
It's tough to say.
Right.
There's some interesting decisions on quite literally the first turn of the game because are you supposed to play Fury on 1, which is a faster clock?
Yeah.
Or are you supposed to play Grief and bring that back and say, I'm going to take 2 of your cards?
Right.
Right? And then the Fury in your hand is probably not very good for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really tough call as you're going to see a Grief select Ugin here and leave Calcano with an Ulamog. And it is also worth noting that Karn the Great Creator is dead now.
Yep.
As we head back Calcano's way.
So any Tron land here. Have to be a little bit careful with how many cards you draw with the One Ring because, of course, we still want Calcano still wants that Ensnaring Bridge in play to prevent the Fury from attacking.
2 cards coming here for Calcano as a second burden counter is added on there. The draw step for Calcano this turn was a copy of the One Ring, so the ability to reset if necessary.
Right.
But you'll see here that Christian did draw 2 good ones here in Karn the Great Creator and Sylvan Scrying.
Yeah.
Very easy for him to get more cards out of his hand.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just unleash everything now. You can Sylvan Scrying here for a tower if you'd like that will net you 1 mana as he hasn't made a land drop for the turn.
Calcano will Scrying now. 2 colorless mana floating since he went to do this through the Urza's Tower.
Yeah, so would be 1 mana short here of being able to cast the Ulamog in hand. But of course also has Karn the Great Creator.
Mm-hmm.
If this Calcano also has the Metamorph. Let's take a look real quick. Does not. Could have gotten a Metamorph here to copy the Fury and kill the Fury, but don't really care about the Fury, honestly. With
Yeah,
that
no,
Ensnaring Bridge in play.
the Fury, I would say, is mostly handled at this point.
Yeah.
It's big, it's angry, and it can't attack.
And it's just staring at that bridge.
That's
Can't
right.
cross it.
The 2 colorless.
No mana floating now for Cal. He'll play another One Ring, reset this one.
Yep.
So he'll gain protection from everything until the next turn.
Yep, and that protects Christian Calcano from a Thoughtseize or a Grief to take the Ulamog out of his hand.
And now there is Karn the Great Creator.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the powerful Planeswalker has arrived once again. It will start on 5 loyalty, as it always does. And now Calcano is going to investigate what kind of card he can take from outside the game and add to his hand.
So has access to 1 colorless mana. Does he want to just use Karn here to find a cheap card to play? Perhaps something like a Haywire Might in case Jake draws the one of copy of Blood Moon in the deck?
I think it is entirely possible that on this turn we may see Calcano just plus this. Not sure if there's anything in particular he wants to grab. And I think he's going to double check here.
Like, what's the best option here for me this turn?
Again, because he does have protection from the One Ring entering the battlefield this turn, a Thoughtseize or a Grief is of no concern.
Right.
So whatever he does search for will be staying in his hand almost certainly.
Yeah, the other 1 mana play is Pithing Needle, but I'm not sure that there's actually a card to really Pithing Needle in the matchup here that, at least for the following turn here for Jake Beardsley.
Calcano's going to -2 that Karn and go a searching through that sideboard. And it's going to be Sundering
Okay.
Titan. Not a bad choice with the 2 Blood Crypts out there.
Draw.
And Beardsley will draw a card.
And this should lock it up here.
Yeah, it's pretty darn close to locked, I would say.
You got this one.
And that is going to do it. Tron flexes its muscles against Rakdos Evoke as Christian Calcano win game number 1 here over Jake Beardsley. Game number 2 coming soon to you. Paul, that was a pretty good one between these 2 very powerful decks.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see both decks do exactly what it wanted to do, right? Both decks were able to execute their strategy here. Now, Christian Calcano was on the play that game. It was obviously very, very big.
Huge.
This time,
huge.
swings it around. Jake, now on the play, can take potential turn 1 expedition map or anything like that that would allow Christian to find Tron.
Yes.
early.
And that may have also weighed into the calculus for Jake on whether to evoke Fury or to evoke Grief, because I think maybe on the play, maybe you'd rather evoke Grief,
Right.
and take a couple of cards. That gives you the opportunity to catch something like an Expedition map, as you mentioned, as opposed to when you're on the draw, you evoke a Fury and say, I got to try to kill you as fast as I can.
Yeah, this 4-3 is just simply not going to be enough time for me to actually get you down because that's a 5-turn clock on the draw against Tron.
Yeah.
They just have so many ways to find what they need.
Yep, and that's exactly what you saw in that first game from Christian Calcano.
I will be on the playlist. Yeah.
A great tournament that we've had the opportunity to watch here all weekend long in Barcelona. We got to watch 6 rounds of the Lord of the Rings Limited, which was a lot of fun. A lot of powerful black and red spells. So those green decks maybe performed better than people expected. Took me by surprise. I didn't expect them to do very well at all. But we saw them perform admirably. And the modern portion, where we had 10 rounds of that over the course of 2 days, we saw some pretty wild decks and some wild matches all weekend long, partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I want to talk about here is just Christian Calcano up a game here. I want to turn back the clock a little bit.
Sure.
Last modern Pro Tour that we had, also
Right here in this building?
right here in this building,
Yeah.
same month, July.
Okay.
4 years ago.
Okay.
Taralf Severin on the same deck,
I do recall.
winning it all.
Yeah.
Could potentially have back-to-back Tron decks taking Modern Pro Tour.
Tron is this funny little animal in Modern. It's been around for a while.
It's going to stay around for a while.
It's going to stay around for a while. Some people love it. Some people loathe it. But here's the one thing. It does win.
Oh, yeah.
It does win.
It's consistent. It now has kind of a mid-range game you can play. And that's a natural Tron here from Christian Calcano.
El Natural.
El Natural. What better time to have El Natural than in the finals?
As a former Tron player and someone who's played against Tron plenty.
Former? Are you really?
I'm a changed man.
Okay.
I am.
All right.
I mean, I might
Fair
be
enough.
going back after this tournament. But as a former Tron player and one who's played against the deck quite a bit, there is no worse feeling in the world than when they keep 7.
Yep.
Now, they mulligan some, you expect that. They keep 7, whoo, boy, you're in.
Right. And that's the thing. With this specific matchup, you want to mulligan a little less if you're Christian Calcano, because oftentimes you're looking for the Sylvan Scrying or the map to try to get the Tron. But because there's 8 hand disruption spells in Jake Beardsley's list, sometimes you have to keep these hands. But of course, on the other side, when you're Jake, you're like, oh no. I mean, even if I have hand disruption, it's going to be tough.
Now, game number 2 is underway. Both players are going to keep their 7 cards, and it is notable here, partner, that Jake Beardsley has a turn 1 Thoughtseize that he is choosing not to cast because Dauthi Voidwalker is in hand, and the ceiling of that card in this matchup is extremely high.
Yeah, that is incredible. So Jake choosing not to try to take one of the Tron search cards out of Christian's hand and actually choosing to slow things down here and go set up a Voidwalker into Thoughtseize line where you can go, hey, I'm going to take your Karn or your Wormcoil Engine. Or maybe Ulamog.
Or maybe that one. Or maybe
that one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Dauthi Voidwalker this weekend, we have seen some absolutely ridiculous things from this Dauthi Rogue. And remember, the Voidwalker, you play it.
This is a turn 3 Ulamog, Cedric.
With a cast trigger.
With a cast trigger, oh my goodness. I mean, the earliest I thought you could ever play that card was turn 4.
That's what I thought.
But apparently, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
And Calcano, as far as I'm concerned, he kept a great hand.
Right.
His hand is awesome.
Yeah.
The problem is that it has Ulamog in it.
He had natural Tron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He not only that, he had natural Tron plus the tower to play Ulamog on 4.
Right. He had turn 4.
Well,
Not good enough.
Well,
Not good enough.
Turn 4 Ulamog, it's like kind of medium.
He's like,
medium.
I mean, and Jake doesn't know, right? He's going to find out.
I think Jake's about to find out. I think we might
Here we go.
we might see a smile from Jake in just a moment.
A fist pump?
We got a little bit of
Oh, there it is. Oh, you got it, buddy.
Dear God. All right. That's an opening hand. That's a hand right there.
That's a hit if we've ever seen one.
Oh.
You're gonna take the Ulamog. You've got Star X2,
Whoo, boy.
X2.
You know, Jake ever the consummate professional in the finals of Pro Tour.
Taking
gonna,
notes?
Gonna write down the rest of the
I'm
hand.
going to take. It's not going to matter.
Gonna write it down.
It's not going to matter.
Well,
but I'm
make
going to take
sure.
some notes.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
Do this.
Oh God.
And I guess
There is a swamp.
Nice Rakdos combo deck. This is not the combo I had in mind.
Crux
Though.
Oh boy.
yeah, trigger.
There is Croak, so there will be a trigger.
Okay.
It's like
Cast your
Calcano,
log,
please
exile
continue.
your 2 lands.
And now there is Ulamog. The ceaseless hunger. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's start sideboarding.
Dunzo. Jake Beardsley is going to tie things up here against Christian Calcano. Rakdos Evoke. That's why this was the most played deck in the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
That's why. I get it now.
deck
Ties
lists.
things up here against Mono Green Tron.
And I want to say, you know, the typical play pattern of these Thoughtseize decks. I mean, you have the curve of turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Voidwalker. That's kind of what you would think a typical mid-range strategy should do.
Yeah.
But no. Here's Jake recognizing that the thing, that line that leads to the higher chance of victory there, especially when Calcano keeps 7,
Yes,
is to be patient.
I think that's a big part of it, is that
Right.
Calcano keeps 7, and so, again, most of the time Tron, it mulligans a time or two because
Right.
it's trying to find just a couple of different cards to work together, and it's a deck that mulligans very well. But when your opponent keeps 7, that means they probably have Tron rolled up in some form or fashion and at least one payoff.
Right.
Which incentivizes you to actually take the Voidwalker line, especially when you're on the play.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to keep a 7, it's one of those situations where you go, you know, I don't think this one Thoughtseize is going to be enough, right? You kept the 7, you're going to have multiple ways to find this Tron. I'm going to be in trouble. Instead, I'm going to try to take a Karn Liberated or an Ulamog or a Wormcoil Engine and try to get you that way.
Yeah, well, get him. Jake Beardsley certainly did. We're going to take a short break. We need to recover after that nonsense. So when we do come back, it's game number 3 of the finals of the Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings, between Christian Calcano and Jake Beardsley, right after this. Welcome back to the finals of Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings. We are here in Barcelona, Spain, and as beautiful as that architecture is, I don't think I've seen anything as glorious as what we just saw in game number 2 in the hands of Jake Beardsley. A turn 3 Ulamog. Don't mind if I do.
I think that might be a new record.
Yes.
All right, I dare somebody to pull that one off turn 2.
Unbelievable stuff here in the finals. And you know, these two decks, Paul, part of the reason that they were played so much this weekend and why they've seen a lot of success is they are just incredibly, incredibly powerful decks.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about this Rakdos Evoke strategy is, when you first look at it, you kind of think, okay, well, maybe this is a mid-range deck, right? Maybe it's a mid-range deck. It's got Thoughtseize or whatever, but it can kind of play that mid-range game. But it also just has games where you just get free wins on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the hallmark of a deck that's successful, or what you need for a deck to be successful in Modern a lot of the time. I mean, we look at decks historically. It's like, hey, I have this really insane combo, but I can still win these fair games, right?
Yeah.
And having that combination is what allowed Jake to kind of make it this far. And, you know, he apparently has another combo up his sleeve, which is just Hand Disruption plus Doughty Voidwalker.
Yeah, and that combo continues to look very good for him on the Sunday stage. Looked great in his last match against Dominic Harvey, and boy, it's never looked better than it did in game number 2 there against Christian Calcano. I know these players are working on sideboarding here. Paul, anything stand out to you as far as potential changes that could take place from either player? Because we're in the thick of it now. The 2 main deck games, they're all done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that makes a lot of sense for Jake Beardsley is, of course, to go to the full 3 copies of Blood Moon. That has historically been the type of card that you want to board in against Tron, slow them down, stop them from casting their Wormcoil engines on turn 3. So Jake's certainly going to be bringing those in, probably going to be taking out those 2 copies of Fatal Push at the minimum in terms of the cards that he has in his sideboard. Now, from Christian's side, he knows about the Blood Moons.
Yeah.
And there are multiple Haywire Mites that he has in his sideboard. So I wouldn't be shocked to see at least one of those Haywire Mites get boarded in, perhaps leave one in the sideboard because you have Karn the Great Creator to search for, or potentially just bring both of them in.
Yeah, Haywire Might's an interesting card in this matchup because it does solve that Blood Moon problem, but it actually, in my opinion, maybe pulls a little extra duty because it does block a Ragavan.
Yeah.
And that
Absolutely.
certainly does come up because this Rakdos Evoke deck plays a lot of those, and this, one could argue, is Ragavan's best matchup.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of splash damage too. If you really want, could also kill Fable the Mirror Breaker. Jake Beardsley playing a slightly unconventional version of the Rakdos Evoke deck. Instead of playing Seasoned Pyromancer, opting to play 4 copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker instead.
Sure. So it looks like Jake has found a hand that he is happy enough with. Calcano doing a little bit of mulliganing here, so he's still not satisfied as Christian. But remember, these Tron decks that have been oh so successful here in Barcelona, both past and present, they don't mind going down a card or 2.
So Calc will be on the play. That is a 1-lander. However, he does have Urza's Mind into Chromatic Sphere with Ancient Stirrings. But of course, when you're playing against the Rakdos Evoke deck, you have to just assume that turn 1, they're likely going to take something out of your hand.
I think it's a safe assumption.
Yeah. But
Now, it looks like Calcano might be keeping this one. You see a hand with multiple copies of Sylvan Scrying, a Chromatic Sphere, an Oblivion Stone is the payoff card. There's an Expedition Map, there's an Urza's Mine, and there's an Ancient Stirring. So there is some redundancy insofar as, can I get myself to 7 mana?
Right.
He has the cards to do that. Now, does he find the right card or cards once he gets there? We're going to find out.
And it looks like Calca went all the way down to 5 here, but a decent looking 5.
Yeah, I think this 5 is totally reasonable keep. And even if you do get targeted by a discard spell, you're doing okay. Now, this
All right.
puts Calc to the test right away. In game 1, he was able to assemble very fast.
Right.
Now, that might not be the case here.
No, absolutely not. Needs to try to get Tron. Ooh, my goodness. That's a turn 3 Tron, folks.
He was able to do it again.
Turn 3 Tron. Wow.
He was able to do it
There you
again.
go. Of course, still needs to find something
Well,
here.
he needs the payoff.
Right.
The 7 mana, not a problem.
This is the exact same situation. Last time, found a 1 ring.
That's right. And boy, was that good.
Oh, yeah. But 1 ring, Wormcoil Engine, lots of great draws here for Christian Calcano.
Now you see Jake's hand, and does have that incredibly powerful Dauthi Void Walker in it, alongside an Orcish Bowmasters and a Polluted Delta. Currently missing a discard spell is Jake Beardsley. But could be one draw step away from finding one.
Right. And with
Your turn. Okay. Draw. Yeah. 8.
Jake picked up another copy of Bowmasters. He says, I'm in for 8. 8 is
Eight.
great. 8 is great. You're at 12.
Yeah. for a swamp.
And now it's Void Walker time almost
Yeah.
assuredly. And look, this Rakdos Evoke deck, Paul, on the draw, it puts on such a fast clock. Look at this.
And by the way, this is a potential lethal attack next turn.
Yes, it is.
This is an attack for 11 with an Orcish Bowmasters. That's 12.
That's right.
Christian absolutely needs to find a way to survive this turn.
That would be another turn 3 kill, just a different way
Just-
of doing it.
This is the more fair. I don't even.
I don't even know at this point.
I don't know what, but it is a turn 3 kill.
What do we draw? And Urza's mine. That's not
All
what
right,
Christian's looking
Relic of Progenitus. Gonna have to find something here.
for. So, in this situation, for Calcano, Ancient Stirrings can't cast.
Nope.
Expedition map, too slow.
Nope.
So Relic, in order to play and bust, that's going to cost 2 mana, which will
You
leave
have 5
Calcano
mana.
with 5.
One ring.
That's the one.
That's the one.
I think that has to be the card that he finds.
I don't think Karn does anything.
I don't think it does either.
Right. So he needs to find a 1 ring here off the relic.
You have 2 floating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Calcano has 2 mana floating. Let's bring it down to 1.
That's
All right. Could find a sphere or a star.
Yep.
That would help cast Ancient Stirrings potentially.
Does he do it again? Does he find the 1 ring again?
1 ring?
No.
No.
It's a Sundering Titan.
And this is going to be a turn 3 kill here
No
for
floating.
Jake Beardsley.
Okay.
Yep. Calcano's going to deploy that map. In the first game, the turn 1 Fury plus make you discard plan, that came up short. This game, the turn 1 Fury plus some additional beatdown plan,
Can you get it done?
it looks like it's going to get it done.
Had a couple of draws there, Christian Calcano, but what an explosive start here. This Rakdos Evoke deck is just capable of such, unbeatable starts
Yes.
against most decks.
Most played deck in this tournament for a reason.
Absolutely.
The appeal of doing this
Right.
is hard to not register.
And there's just not a lot of counterplay.
No.
Right?
No.
You can't do anything turn 1.
Yeah.
Take it.
Calcano's going to take all that damage. He's going to fall down to 1,
Yep.
and there's the Bowmasters.
Okay.
And that is going to do
Wow.
it. Jake Beardsley is 1 game away in his first Pro Tour of becoming a Pro Tour champion.
What an incredible run it has been here so far for Jake Beardsley. First Pro Tour. Did I win any matches in my first Pro Tour? I'm just trying to think. Maybe like 3?
I know the answer to that question for me. No.
Yes, please.
No. Pro Tour San Diego 2004. I 0-3'd my first draft.
Okay.
It was a limited PT. This is back when it was all limited, of course.
Right.
And I 0-3'd. And I think I may have played the second pod for funsies because I was out of the tournament at that point.
Got something fun.
Maybe I won a match in the second pod, but I don't think I
But
did.
you were already out, basically.
Oh, yeah, tournament's over. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It turns out, for most of us, these things are pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. For Jake, clearly not.
Pro Tours are super
They're
hard.
really tough. These things are really tough. Yeah.
Calcano has been playing forever, and it took him an extremely long time before he got his first Pro Tour top eight.
Yeah. And Calcano, he set out pretty early on in his Magic career, and he decided pretty early on, look, I want to be really good at this.
Yeah.
You know? And he put in a lot of work. I've known Christian for a really long time, and I remember when he was just okay on the PTQ circuit, and then he started coming up through the Grand Prix circuit, and the finishes went from making day 2 to making top 32 to making top 8s to hoisting the trophy. And then he wanted to start accomplishing things on this level. And he started to do that too with that perfect event that he had at Pro Tour Amonkhet. So he has put in so much time and so much work. And not only that, he traveled everywhere to do it.
If there was a Grand Prix,
Yeah.
not even necessarily just in the United States.
No, that's what I mean.
Right?
Yeah.
He would. If there's a Grand Prix in Manila, you'd probably see him there somewhere in the top
You
8,
search
top
those
16.
standings online?
Oh, yeah.
And did Calcano go to... He's at this one too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Got to get those points.
Oh, yeah. He wanted to be great, and he has become great at this game.
And really interesting path, by the way, to qualifying for this event.
Yeah.
He happened to be in Athens. Christian Calcano, American. He was in Athens.
As one is to do, just happened to be in Athens when a Magic tournament is.
Yeah, and he qualified for Athens after qualifying for the regional championship through a side event in Naples at the regional championship in
Yes.
Naples. And because he qualified in Naples, he had to fly back
That's
to
right.
Europe
That's right.
to play in the regional
That's right.
championship.
That's right.
Got the invite, and here we are.
Easy road.
Yeah.
Easy road.
There you go.
Just went to his local store and
Should have been grinding in Europe.
Yeah.
Right? Should have
Yeah.
been grinding in Europe all this time.
That's right. Beardsley Calcano, game number 4 on the way. As Calcano will take a look at his opening hand here, you do see at least an Urza's Tower. A Boseiju, an Ugin is the payoff card, but it looks like he might be a little ways away from Tron.
Yeah, no, you have one Tron land and a map. There is a Boseiju as a second land there. Relic on the play turn 1 isn't too bad.
Yeah, but you're not thrilled about it, and I don't think he's thrilled about this hand because, again, the Tron deck doesn't mind taking mulligans, and look, we just saw what happened last game.
Right.
He got to turn 3 Tron with relative ease. Now, it didn't lead to a victory, but if you can do that regularly, like I'm sure he has over the course of this tournament, it's going to lead to a lot of victories.
And I think Christian kept here, right? Because you're seeing Jake
Wow.
Beardsley mulligan. The active player makes the first decision as to what he wants to do with this mulligan. And then Jake responded here by shuffling his deck.
Very interesting. Okay. This hand does have a
wonder-
little bit of built-in, I suppose, redundancy thanks to the One Ring.
And if you're Christian, do you go turn 1 map or turn 1 relic? Right? Because if you go turn 1 relic, if Jake Beardsley doesn't have a fetch land, cannot go evoke creature
Yeah.
into Feign Death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing in the graveyard.
Exactly.
Right.
The only creature that would be that would hit the graveyard first would be the creature. But of course, a fetch land breaks that all up.
Yes. So Jake's going to take a mulligan. And I will point this out as we've watched Jake over the course of today and we've walked the rows this weekend. Very cool, calm, and collected
Oh yeah.
for a
not,
first Pro
not
Tour.
shaking. Doesn't really seem especially nervous. I'm sure deep down inside, maybe.
Hiding it well.
Hiding it well, though,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'll keep this.
A couple copies of Ragavan. And it looks like Jake,
I just gotta figure out
how
where
far
I'm
down
going.
are we going?
I don't know. I see Blood Moon here, too. Is this the keep or the mulligan?
Oh boy. Well,
Oh,
given the
okay.
split between
I think that's the... Is this a mulligan to 4?
I think so.
Wow.
That's actually a pretty good mulligan.
I mean, that's a turn 2 Blood Moon.
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. That's a pretty good mulligan.
Oh, it's
Okay,
two
2 cards are going back. Yeah, I was like, man, if that's a mulligan to 4, that's a pretty good mulligan to 4.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's Blood Moon, it's Ragavan, it's a couple of fetches. And one more card that we'll have on our card viewer in just a moment for you at home. It's Grief.
Yep.
Meaning a black card will be a good draw.
Right.
Game 4.
Yep.
18.
Potentially our final one here of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Jake mulled a 5, but it is a good 5.
It's a Relic of Progenitus here for Calcano. It's a Ragavan here for Beardsley.
Warping Well would be a fantastic draw here for Christian Calcano.
That would be very good. Tormod's Crypt, not exactly what the doctor
Oh, that's right out of the board.
Yep. Calcano's going to start by sacrificing this copy of Relic of Progenitus. New card coming.
Wants to find another Tron land to play this turn.
Didn't
Doesn't
find one.
find it because he's going to play the map here.
And
And
that
the
is an
crypt.
expedition map. Yeah, will he deploy the crypt or not? I
I
would
imagine
assume that he
so.
does. Yeah, and there that
Yeah,
is.
So now you can't get
Draw.
comboed out here with an Undying
Combat?
Effect.
Yep.
Ragavan.
Here comes Ragavan.
Trigger.
The card that a lot of people were afraid to play.
That's pretty fair.
Fetch 217 for a swamp.
Yeah.
And is this just Blood Moon?
And I think a card that people were afraid to play against.
Right. Especially for the Tron players.
That's right.
Cards in end.
F4.
As Beardsley
Sack the
shuffles and
treasure.
presents, he's going to sacrifice
Cast Blood
that
Moon.
treasure. It's a turn 2 Blood Moon, everybody.
Man, this is going to be a lot here for Christian Calcano to fight through.
It's a tough road to hoe.
It's Ragavan generating so much advantage, just so much. I mean, best one-drop creature ever printed, right? It's gotta be.
It's really tough to argue against. I will say that.
And even in one of the most hostile fields
Yes.
against this card with the Bowmasters
Yes.
and the Ren and 6s.
Yes.
Still putting in work.
Now, here is a copy of Oblivion Ring. Now, here's the one thing to note about Ragavan. As good as this card is, and boy, is it good, it is not the fastest clock in the
Nope.
world.
Nope.
And the cards that you reveal off the top of the deck from Tron, you generally can't cast.
Right. We're correct.
Now, this one you can, but it doesn't do all that much in Expedition Map.
Yeah. There's a Grief in Jake's hand. He can just hardcast this Grief
Sure
now
can.
off the treasure.
Grief.
And here comes Grief. Now, here's as we make our way through this game, this Oblivion Stone's going to loom large
Oh, yeah.
because it's on the battlefield already. Calcano has access to another land in the Expedition Map that he has on the battlefield. And Jake may be incentivized to take the other map.
Right, because this is not enough pressure, right? Calcano will eventually get to land number 5 if you don't take the map.
Yes. So this is actually a real decision here for Beardsley between, in my estimation, the One Ring and the Expedition Map.
Right.
I don't think Ugin really works itself into the equation here, Paul.
Yeah. Ugin is something you worry about a little bit later here. There are some immediate issues for Jake Beardsley here.
Beardsley's hand, pardon me. Another Ragavan and a Fable the Mirror Breaker. So the One Ring is going to be the selection here for Jake.
So Calcano will be a little bit delayed here because you can pop the map, get a land, play the map, but can't pop that one. So you can't crack the Oblivion Stone on turn 5. You're going to have to wait till turn 6, unless you can draw a land.
That's right. Calcano's draw for the turn is a Chromatic Sphere.
Likely going to play that and cycle it here. As if he plans to crack the Expedition map and play the other Expedition map, we'll still have 1 mana left over.
It looks like
We're fetching a power plant here.
it looks like he may want to start by just cracking Expedition Map. So that's what he's going to do. Certainly an argument to be made for searching up the last Tron piece. Of course, it is a mountain right now.
Right.
But assuming that you're able to actually blow up the Oblivion Stone, then it turns your Tron online for the Ugin that's hiding out in your hand. And so there is the Urza's Mine.
Yep, and I imagine it's going to be mine, sphere, potentially crack?
Potentially crack.
You could wait on that one.
I think there are reasons that you could make, there are reasons you could argue, pardon me, to keep the sphere on the battlefield.
Right, but what if you draw an Ancient Stirrings that helps you, that guarantees your land drop for
Yeah.
next turn,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Do you want to get deeper in your deck right away, or is there a good reason to wait?
Right, because if you keep the sphere around, if you draw Boseiju, you have the green mana, right, through the sphere to kill the Blood Moon.
This is a Chromatic Sphere.
I think you want to crack just because you don't need to Boseiju the Blood Moon, given that you have the O Stone in.
Yeah. Yep.
Green. Sure.
And now he'll sacrifice the sphere. Filter for a green.
Really just wants a land.
It's the One Ring.
Oh, which that'll do too.
That's not a bad.
That's a good one.
That's not a bad follow up. In the off chance that Calcano doesn't hit the land drop right away,
Yeah.
that's not a bad card to find. Now
Did not play the map.
that is interesting. I'm sure he has a reason as a backup,
Okay.
Ragaman as a draw there for Beardsley.
Yeah, I think his plan is just cast One Ring next turn anyways.
There's an Urza's
Let's see
Tower.
what's that.
All right. I mean, Calcano still has plenty of life to work with here at 11.
Now, Fable the Mirror Breaker is a little bit slow,
Yeah.
but it is worth noting that Beardsley is going to be able to discard those Ragavans, at least one of them,
Right?
and find some new cards on his next turn.
Unless Calcano just draws the land and cracks the O Stone right away.
What did we draw? A Chromatic Sphere.
So no. So this seems like a pretty simple just cast One Ring turn.
That's what it's looking like.
So Jake will get some additional draws here.
Yep.
So this is a copy of the One Ring. Burden counter placed onto the powerful artifact, a new card coming.
Land?
It's a Haywire Might,
Okay.
which sort of solves the Blood Moon problem because Calcano does have
It's your turn.
a Chromatic in hand.
Draw.
Right. I think would vastly prefer to just draw the land naturally and just pop the stone, right?
We agree.
But that's the backup plan.
yes.
Backup plan.
Yes. Feigned Death is actually pretty notable here that Beardsley has
Discard two
found that.
Ragavans.
Going to discard 2 copies of Ragavan, 2 cards coming. It's another copy of Fable, and it's a Thoughtseize. Remember, Calcano has protection right now, so that Thoughtseize is not good on this exact turn.
Right. You
Combat.
are correct.
Yeah. Shaman
You can
trigger.
still attack and get a token
You
here.
sure can. So a treasure will be made. Jake doesn't miss that. And we'll pass the turn back.
Yeah, and with that Feigned Death, that grief will come back.
Well, it's interesting.
But there's a Tormod's Crypt
There
in
you
play.
go. There you go. So it depends on a couple of factors. We'll cover it when we get to it.
Sure.
There's another O-Stones to draw here for Calcano. Calcano would love to just naturally draw this land, maybe by activating that One Ring, but there is some risk associated with that, like not finding the land.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're not, I feel like you just need to draw something here. For example, even if you found another One Ring, you'd be pretty happy to play it this turn.
Yeah. There's a high ceiling
Yeah.
on activating that. And I'm very, very curious what Calcano's plans are this turn.
Yeah. The other play, like you mentioned, is just play Chromatic Sphere, play Haywire Might, excuse me,
Sphere? Yes.
and kill the Blood Moon.
Because here's the thing, as he's going to sacrifice the sphere. If Calcano can get this Blood Moon off the battlefield, Ugin's going to take care of the rest.
Yeah, you're totally right. If he was able to find a Tron land here, for example, could have been able to go Haywire Might, kill Blood Moon, still have access to an activation on the Oblivion Stone.
Yeah.
Right? With the Urza's Tower and Power Plant that still would have been left over.
Yeah.
But did not find.
Now, Ancient Stirrings is the draw off of the Chromatic Sphere. He does have a green mana floating, so it's extremely castable at this stage of things.
So we're looking at an attack here for 7. All right.
That's fine, right? Yeah, that's
We are going to see an activation of the One Ring. That's one card. That's a second card. How did Christian do? A Karn the Great Creator and an Ancient Stirrings.
Okay.
Paul, right now, Calcano sits at a virtual 8 because that One Ring.
So it's at a virtual 8, and Jake will be able to attack next turn, right? So you have the Haywire Might. You have a green floating. It's a little awkward, though, because you can't sacrifice it unless you play it this turn and sacrifice it on this turn. That'll put you to 12. You kill the Blood Moon, and I suppose it's not a lethal attack, right? You go up to 12, virtual 10, take 7, go to 3.
Ancient Stirrings.
Well,
That's fine.
it's going to be a Stirrings
Ooh.
now. So, Power Plant, a Stirrings, a Sphere. Among the cards that Calcano is looking at.
Found a sphere.
His most important decision maybe of this tournament is right now because his back is very much up against the wall. Beardsley may be one turn away from winning his first Pro Tour in his debut.
But you find the sphere, you don't have the mana. You don't have the mana to play Sphere, Haywire Might, and crack the Haywire Might.
Sorry. No, you're good.
Can Calcano find a way?
Yeah. Really tough spot here. Turn 2 Blood Moon doing so much work in this game. Christian on the cusp of nearly coming back. Needs to find land number 5 here for the stone, but on the other side, Jake, 1 win away. First Pro Tour,
One turn away, one attack away.
winning it all.
Chromatic Sphere is the choice off of the stirrings.
You can just feel the tension here.
Christian will play the sphere.
Crack it for green.
Yeah, he may have to find a land here now.
Right, just off the top right here.
The draw. It's an Urza's
Okay,
mine.
It's a mine. So you can go, might kill Blood Moon, go to 12, take 7, go to 5, take 2 from the ring, go to 3.
Go 3.
Close.
And then we'll see.
And then we'll see. But now, I mean, then Christian gets to untap and has all the mana
Got
available
me
to
at
him.
17, you at 10?
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay.
You have 3 in hand, right?
Yes.
With green floating still. I'll use red.
Calcano's going to use the colorless.
Yes.
There's the Haywire Might. Remember, green mana is floating.
Yep. Sack the Haywire Might, kill the Blood Moon, unlock your Tron lands.
Yeah, this is interesting. I was curious if this would be another option, which is he blows up his one ring. Yep.
Okay. And
Because O-Stone takes care of the rest, right?
on the following turn.
On the following turn. I was very
Sure.
curious if this is what was going to happen too. There's 2 options there between the Blood Moon and the ring, and now we've been working in the ring damage.
Right.
That's no longer there. So, Fable of Mirror is going to transform now into Reflections of Kiki Jiki. Fury was the draw.
Combat.
Yeah.
Here come the
7
creatures.
trigger shaman.
Yep.
This will be an attack here for
5,
7.
yeah.
Calcano's going to fall down to 5. Here comes a Ragavan trigger. Step 1 is the reveal. Step 2 is the
Okay.
treasure.
Forest.
Forest
That's a miss.
is a miss.
And Jake does have Thoughtseize.
He does.
Now cast it this turn. Can get that Ugin or Karn the Great Creator out of Christian Calcano's hand.
Thoughts easier?
There is a Thoughtseize.
I've seen worse hands.
Oblivion Stone, Ancient Stirrings, Expedition Map, Karn the Great Creator, and the aforementioned Ugin the Spirit Dragon are the 5 cards in hand right now for Christian Calcano.
And with that reflection of Kiki Jiki that's in play, the timing of when you want to sacrifice this Oblivion Stone is now in question, right? Because if you wait until Jake Beardsley's turn,
Fine.
and because the onus is on you to sacrifice the Oblivion Stone, all of a sudden, Jake has the option of copying Grief,
Yeah, that's correct.
right? And taking an additional card out of Christian Calcano's hand.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So this might be a main phase Oblivion Stone here for Christian Calcano.
Calcano will draw. Sundering Titan was the draw here for Calcano. That's something to play towards if you can make it out of this.
And now we get to talk about that interaction that we previewed a little bit earlier, right? There's a Tormod's Crypt on the battlefield. There's a Grief in play. There's a Feign Death in Jake Beardsley's hand. If the Tormod's Crypt wasn't in play, Christian Calcano would sacrifice the Oblivion Stone, and Jake Beardsley would be able to save the Grief with the Feign Death. But because Tormod's Crypt is in play, is there any point here where you can Tormod's Crypt and
Combat.
get the Grief out of the graveyard?
Doesn't look
I don't
like
think
it.
so, right?
Nope.
Because you just cast it in response.
Yeah. And because it's targeting the creature while it's in play
Right.
and not in the graveyard, there's no moment to win that battle.
So there's a 4-3 in play then, and Christian would go down to 1.
oh, 1 is not none.
You find a Ragavan, now that's 3 gone.
That's also true.
Or Bowmasters.
Ooh.
That's another card Jake can draw.
Yeah.
To just flat out win the game here on the following turn.
Oh, boy. Oh, Jake's draw for this turn.
Oh my goodness. Now Christian waited.
Sack
He's going to
myself.
crypt right now.
Sack crypt on yourself. Yeah, sure.
This goes to
Okay.
And then I'll
And now
Pop the stone.
sack the stone.
he will blow the Oblivion Stone. So there's going to be a response here from
Copy
Jake.
grief.
He's going
Yep.
to copy the grief with the reflections of Kiki G.
Thank you.
Yes, he will.
Grief trigger will
There will be a grief trigger,
target you. So with that.
and he's going to target Christian.
Take a big card. Then he can feign death, the original grief. Get that back into play.
This is really, really tough. So,
Might want to use those treasures, though.
well,
right?
my assumption is that we're in the attack step.
Right.
So there's probably not a ton that he can do with the treasures at this stage of things.
Right.
Or, like, he'll
but
probably use some at some
you-
point. but-
well, isn't it still better to just use a treasure?
Sure,
here,
sure.
Given that the O stone is popping.
Sure,
right?
sure. So
You have
if we kind of go down the list, and this is exactly what Jake is doing right now, you're going to count the mana.
Goes away.
There's 7, 8, 9. There's 10 total mana for Christian to work with, assuming no land drawn, okay?
Right.
So if you go down the checklist here, it's like, okay, Expedition Map, how much do I care? Probably not that much. Ancient Stirrings, that's a redraw. Don't know what you're going to hit.
Right.
Probably care about that, but it's tough to say. Sundering Titan, well, okay, that thing's huge. But I'm
But-
getting a grief back that has Menace.
Menace.
So I don't
That
think
doesn't matter.
I don't
Take
think I care about
O-Stone.
Sundering Titan that
And
much.
then
So I think
still
Ugin and O
response.
stone make the most sense to me.
I
Fade
do
down,
too.
Target grief.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna pay for it like. with
Okay,
a-
now he realizes.
Now
he
he's
can
going to use a
treasures.
treasure.
O-Stone resolve. O-Stone activation resolves.
So
Its
now
treasures
O-Stone's
are gone,
gonna
Blood Moon is
resolve.
gone, grief will come back.
Everything's going to get blown up.
Counter.
Grief is going to come back from the graveyard.
Gonna take
and
Ugin.
then
That
take
is the assumption
Ugin.
between you and I.
That leaves you
And
with
Jake is going to take that as
Map,
well.
Stirrings and Titan.
And was
Yeah.
that a slight misstep though?
Okay.
Not using the treasure. Can't play Fable of the Mirror Breaker in your hand.
You're good to go.
That's a
His
really good
turn,
point.
right?
That's
That's
a
big.
very good point. That's a very good point.
Extremely relevant here.
Okay. Now, Paul, there are a few people I know that like a sweat more than Christian Calcano.
Oh man! All right, here it is.
Time to draw.
We have Tron.
He finally got out from underneath that blood moon.
All right, Ancient Stirrings.
That's where this turn begins.
What will you bring us?
The top 5 are a surprise. Karn, Warping Whale, Sylvan Scrying, Relic of Progenitus, Oblivion Stone.
Oblivion
Karn
Stone,
taken
Karn.
immediately.
All right. 5 mana available.
Post Karn, absolutely. Remember, he hasn't played a land after the turn, has Calcano, and he has drawn a forest for the turn.
So 6 mana available. Has to be mindful of Bowmasters, potentially even Lightning Bolt, right? So if you just get a Wormcoil Engine, you can't block, right? So might need something else. We've seen him get Ensnaring Bridge in the past,
Yep.
right? Might see it again here.
There's Karn.
Yep.
Down to 3.
Yep.
Will Christian try to hide behind an ensnaring bridge once again?
Yes.
The answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
So, there's his land.
Oh, man.
There's the bridge.
Yep.
There's the map,
This is the map.
Yep.
and that's his hand.
Last card is Sundering Titan.
And his last card is
Oh,
Sundering
right,
Titan.
that's Sundering Titan. Remember, Jake Beardsley has a Lightning Bolt. Christian is
Yeah.
at an effective
Draw. Yep.
2 life.
Beardsley's draw. That's a Thoughtseize, I believe. And if it is, that does solve the Sundering Titan problem.
Yeah. And I'm still looking back at that last turn, not
Yes, you're
sacrificing
No,
the
I think
treasure,
that's-
not having the Fable in play here.
It's absolutely huge. You noticed it right away. And not having the Fable here means there's not a 2/2 Goblin, which wouldn't be able to attack through the bridge. But more importantly, there's no draw 2, discard 2.
Right.
And if Jake wants to deploy Fable, that means he's not doing other things potentially. Now, he
Right.
hasn't drawn really anything of consequence this turn with the Verdant Catacombs, but the inability to draw 2 and discard 2 this turn,
Right.
and maybe it comes one turn too late.
Right. Because you're looking for that second bolt.
Yes.
You're looking for some Orcish Bowmasters.
Yes. What seemed so minor at the time, because, my lands are Blood Moon, they don't
Yeah.
really matter, they don't really do
Exactly.
anything. Those treasures were free resources.
Right.
So, Jake is going
Fury,
to
Exile, Fable.
Yeah.
evoke Fury
Kill Karn.
to take care of Karn, keeping the bolt that Christian does not know about.
Right.
Go.
Play a Verdant Catacombs and pass the turn back. Calcano can, of course, sacrifice
One in hand, right?
this
One in
expedition map on the end step. Not entirely sure what he'd want to find in this spot, but it is an option.
Perhaps a Boseiju, just in case Jake finds another Blood Moon. You know he's going to play Sundering Titan this turn. Get a Swamp and a Mountain off the battlefield, perhaps.
Hello!
That's some action. Wow. That is a draw here for Christian Calcano.
Woo-hoo, baby.
Access to 7 mana here with what's on board, with that Karn the Great Creator off the top.
The great creator indeed.
Yeah.
Like, what are you afraid of here? How can
Good
Jake kill you?
All right, so if I am Calcano, it's a little unfair because I know about the bolt.
Yeah.
It's a little unfair.
He probably has a bolt.
It's a little unfair because I know about the bolt. How can I gain life? How can I gain life? Is
Right.
there anything in the sideboard?
A Worm Coil Engine is typically a card that you see in the sideboard.
Yeah, it can be over
There
there.
is a Chalice of the Void. Do you Chalice for 2?
For Bowmasters, maybe?
We saw Alex Hayne do that in this exact same matchup
Okay.
in the
okay,
last round yesterday.
Okay.
Do you Chalice for 2 so you don't get Bowmastered?
You're not going to challenge
Because
for, you're
there's
not gonna
only,
chal-
there's only 2 Lightning Bolts in the deck in most lists.
Sure. You're not going to challenge for one.
Right, you have
You have
too many ones.
ones to
But
do
you
that.
don't need Sylvan Scrying anymore. Do you Stone Brain? Just Stone Brain the Bowmasters?
Okay, so the sideboard over here. Leveler, I don't think we're there. Stone Brain, it's not impossible.
Now, does Jake have a way to kill artifacts after sideboard?
We'll take a look. Pyrite Spellbomb, that sort of thing, nothing really notable. You see Beardsley's sideboard here of what's come in and some of his options.
So
Shield?
this is what's in his sideboard. So
Yeah.
that means he boarded one of the bolts out,
Okay.
right?
Let's take a look.
Okay.
Because I know you have his 75 in front of you. Just how
Yeah.
many bolts he has access to.
Right.
And then we can maybe play a guessing game a little bit here.
That's completely fair here.
Because things may have changed between game 3 and game 4, too. Right?
No, absolutely.
Sure.
That's Ballista for 3.
There are 2 lightning bolts just in the sideboard.
Oh, that's interesting.
One card.
That's
Okay.
funky. All right, Calcano's going to go with a walking ballista.
Ballista.
Tron. Yeah.
Jake's going to draw. If one lightning bolt's in, you might think the second one is. What is this? 2 mana.
Voidwalker?
Boy, that card's been a hoot. The only person who knows that what that card is that Jake drew is Jake.
It's not a lightning bolt. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, fair. You
Yeah.
win. You win
Yeah.
this round.
Yeah. Scoreboard.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Uh,
Has a card to discard.
okay. Okay.
Oh.
Oh boy. Okay, so Calcano's kind of incentivized to be empty-handed.
Right? Because of the Ensnaring Bridge, you don't want to die to a dashed rag event. There is a walking ballista in play, though.
Well, you just want to be empty-handed because you so you want to be empty-handed because you have a bridge,
Right.
right? Now, Croxa, if you don't discard a non-land card, you take 3.
If Christian plays everything in his hand and the Sundering Titan, Jake can go Lightning Bolt to you
Croxa you.
and then Croxa you. That's
Yeah,
it.
That's it.
But remember, Christian has another activation here from Karn. Wow. That would be another reason to Chalice for 2, by the way. Croxa.
Yeah. We know that Calcano boarded in Haywire Might. Okay.
Did he board in both?
Okay, he's tapping mana. I think
All
this,
right.
this
Ooh.
might be Sundering.
Okay,
Titan.
this is Sundering Titan.
Okay.
But if he doesn't get something with this Karn, well, if he gets it, he's probably playing it.
I would be shocked if he didn't. So okay,
Oh,
here's
okay.
here's the Titan.
Yeah. I'll target your swamp, your
This,
mountain,
this.
and my forest.
Yes. Okay. And remember, once Titan resolves,
Yep.
when it comes into play, you choose a land, and those are destroyed. So those are long gone. Jake is down to 2 lands. Christian loses his forest.
What does Christian have again in hand?
Chromatic
It's the
Star.
Do you keep it to play around Croxa?
Will he play around? Oh boy.
Oh, is he
Oh
playing
boy.
it?
Okay, so he's gonna sacrifice.
If you get a tower, that's 1 extra mana.
He'll sack a map.
Yep.
And Jake is
All right.
just, that's fine.
Right.
That's fine.
Oh, this is so close.
Jake says that. Yep. Do whatever you'd like.
Jake's just going, please, just
Just
play
hand.
everything.
Please just empty your hand and
play
snaring bridge player.
everything. Come on. I don't want to have to think.
Tower and star.
You're gonna play the tower, right? It doesn't matter because discarding a land, you still take damage.
Now, Calcano has 4 mana right now.
You can still chalice for 2.
He can chalice for 2. He can also just leave his mana up to activate Walking Ballista, because that's 4 mana, and so that might incentivize him to keep the card.
He's touching. That's he. It looks like he wants to put that star into play.
Okay.
Cal really needs to figure out what he wants to do with that Karn, though.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
He's doing a lot of these other actions, but he hasn't used the
Karn
Karn yet.
I can just plus on
And
nothing.
it looks like he may have a question here with the Karn.
Yes, I believe it is.
It says up to, right?
I think so, but it's in Italian.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
Up to 1 target per non
Okay, thank you.
Players wanted a little bit of clarification with the Karn.
So if he just ticks up and plays the sphere,
It's not over.
it's not over because if he cracks it and finds a spell,
That's correct. It's not over. Okay, so he's plus the Karn. Is he actually going to hold this? I would be blown away.
man. Hold it, Croxa. The thing is, there is some incentive to keep it in hand. There is incentive to keep it. Remember, because you can put a counter on Walking Ballista.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's the main reason here. Oh man.
I'll grab the
All right. Hold to you?
Oh, Blood Crypt.
Is he just gonna
I
hold
think
it
this.
still?
I think this is Blood Crypt tap. Well, I don't think you have a reason to cast the bolt, right?
Yeah, right. You need to surprise kill.
Okay.
Oh no.
Let it
Here we
rip.
go.
Okay.
Christian's like, uh-oh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking.
Calcano's down to 2.
I mean, yeah, that resolves.
You'll be at 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll still pass. Right, and on your
Is
upkeep,
Jake gonna? Okay, so
put a counter on
Calcano is gonna put a counter on the Walking Ballista,
He's gonna kill the grief
and it looks like that's my assumption. Yeah. if you're
before
gonna do
feign
that.
death.
Okay, sure. In the draw step.
Yeah.
Or
I'm good.
upkeep draw. Definitely not the draw step.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
the
yep.
upkeep. Okay, gotcha.
You think Jake's just gonna go for it?
Draw.
I think
Is he just gonna go for it and just hope?
he drew a Bowmasters.
Oh, that's so close. Okay. So Calc down to 1 here,
1 card.
potentially. Can't draw any extra cards.
All right, so
Okay, let's come.
So now that you've been bolted down to 2,
Right.
I think the first place that your mind probably goes if your calc is Bowmaster
Because
damage.
that's a 4-of.
Yes.
Right. That
Right.
is a 4-of.
So I don't want to go down to 1, that sort of
Exactly.
thing. Okay.
Go to 9.
Now Jake is sacrificing a land.
Cast Croxa, Titan of
He
Death.
is going to cast Croxa
Okay,
right
just
now.
going for it.
And
Look at him. He's
Calcano
hoping.
has
He's got
come
something. He's got it.
paired with the Chromatic
Okay,
Star
all
that he
right.
didn't play.
Scary.
That was scary.
Unreal.
Okay. Still
Okay.
not out of it, though.
Now, if Calcano can find a way to get his Sundering Titan off the battlefield, Jake's lands go bye-bye.
Well, you want to get that Ensnaring Bridge off the battlefield, and you can just
and you
kill
can win
Jake.
the game this turn. And now there's a
Haywire
Haywire
Might.
Might.
Haywire Might, the Ensnaring Bridge, and that's the game.
So you do this. You play your mites.
Sack it, kill the bridge. How close was this game?
This right here. This is a game of Magic right here.
This is some Magic the Gathering.
This is a game of Magic right here.
Pump it up.
I'll add a counter here.
Ballista with the counter, and that is it. We are all tied up.
Game 5, let's go.
Jake Beardsley, Christian Calcano, Game 5 for Pro Tour champion on the way.
my.
I think I was winning that game.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if I can handle any more of this, Cedric.
Oh man.
But we got one more.
We got one more. We have one more in us. What a game.
That was a nail biter. Oh my God. I mean, you saw the look on Jake's face. He's just like, all right, crooks are you.
What you got? It's time.
What you got?
It's time. And Jake tried, and I can't believe he didn't play that Chromatic Star. It's a new card.
Yeah.
It could be anything,
It
Paul.
could be anything. And then, going back a few turns too, the heads-up play of using his Haywire Might, not to kill the Blood Moon,
To kill in One Ring.
to kill his One Ring.
Yeah.
That kept him alive.
That kept him alive indeed. My goodness. Oh my goodness. Whew. We are going to take a short break here from
I
Barcelona.
need one.
Boy, do I too. When we come back, Game 5, the best 2 words in competitive Magic. A Pro Tour champion is about to be crowned. Don't you dare go anywhere.
Hey everybody, welcome back to coverage of Pro Tour, the Lord of the Rings here from Barcelona, Spain, and we are going to a Game 5 in our finals. Everybody, that was one of the most incredible games of Magic the Gathering I have ever seen. In this room, I need to tell you all at home, it was the most tense. You could hear a pin drop. There are people over there watching this game in the feature match area. There's us here on the desk at the edge of our seats, heads and hands. Just absolutely incredible. Monty, you're feeling some emotions too, buddy.
No, I'm doing great. I mean, yeah, that was a Pro Tour finals worthy game.
Absolutely.
Both players are just playing this incredibly. Nobody's losing here. We're all winning. Just forgetting to watch that.
Yeah, we are. At multiple times, we thought, this game is done. But being able to pull it back, Will, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm on the edge. Jake looks so good in such a good position at a turn 2 Blood Moon, Ragavan, it all going through. Christian looking for that 5th land drop forever ago, surviving, getting there, and getting us to a game number 5, which is what everybody wants at a Pro Tour final. So much emotion on the line here, so much on the line. I'm lost for words.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't remember a time being at the desk watching a Pro Tour final, all having everybody just absolutely glued to our seats as the pendulum swung back and forth in that match. Monty, going forward here into game number 5, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I just really hope that both players at least get to somewhat execute their game plan, and we have a nice, interactive, exciting game 5, because at this point, there really is no bad outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fantastic game of Magic we had, everybody. It's time for a game 5 here at Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings. I'm going to send it on over to Cedric and Paul.
Thank you very much, Maria. Whoo, baby. That last game. Man, if you don't love that, you don't love competitive Magic. And fortunately for you and I, Paul, we get one more for it all.
And I'm not going to lie. I feel the exact same way as Monty. I'm almost at a loss for words for what we saw in that game. I mean, in the 2 or 3 years that I've worked with Monty, I've never seen him at a loss for words until today.
Sure.
What a game.
Well,
Gonna go to
it is
19.
game 5 for the title here at Pro Tour, The Lord of the Rings, and Jake is humming along already. It looks like an opening hand with a Grief, a Blood Moon, a Bolt, a Bowmasters, and most important of all, an Undying Malice for that Grief.
This hand is incredible for Jake Beardsley. We're talking about turn 1 Grief, Undying Malice, and a turn 3 Blood Moon on the play.
That's right. So, exile the Orcish Bowmasters. Here comes Grief. Couple of Tron lands here for Calcano alongside an Ancient Stirrings, a Relic of Progenitus, a Wormcoil Engine, and a copy of the One Ring.
Go for it.
You'll note that Christian does not have access to green mana at this stage of things, so that Ancient Stirrings currently can't be cast.
Right.
We've seen the power of the One Ring and its
Undying
ability to
Malice,
delay the
Wormcoil.
inevitable.
The Wormcoil.
And
This is
what you're seeing here, Paul, is Jake has said, I'm going to take your payoffs,
right.
and hopefully it doesn't come together.
Yeah, it's like Christian, hope you do not just get turn 3 Tron.
Mhm.
Now Jake does the answer in the Blood Moon if he can find land number 3.
That's right. He has a Delta, Bolt, and a Blood Moon, and we head back over to Calcano. Karn the Great Creator is the first draw step. That's not a bad place to be, as there is a power plant, and here comes the Relic.
Your turn. Draw.
Calcano will pass the turn back over to Beardsley.
4.
Beardsley has drawn a swamp. He's found that land.
And he found a land. This is the perfect start here for Jake Beardsley.
How many you in?
I have 3.
We're going to head back Calcano's way. It's Nerza's Tower to go along with the one that he already has. So he's going to start by sacrificing that relic, exile the graveyards, and draw a new one. Calcano has found another copy of Karn the Great Creator and passed the turn back. Now, we've mentioned, Paul, you and I, the difference between the Fury Clock and the Grief Clock.
Yep.
Grief attacks for 4 a turn. Fury attacks for a lot more than
So
that.
Jake will have the Blood Moon, but it's going to take a little bit longer with the Grief here to close out this match.
Correct. As Blood Moon is the weapon of choice here for Jake off of that fetch land.
But Calc has a lot to fight through here, right? I mean, we're talking about the Grief, the Blood Moon, and he's still missing. He needs to find a way to get the Blood Moon off the battlefield and also a way to find that last Tron piece.
Yes. And there is the Blood Moon.
Yeah.
So Jake has 3 of these after sideboard, and he kept the hand with 1 of them in it. So now we head back over to Calcano's way. We know he's got a tower. And Jake has another copy of Grief in hand. Sylvan Scrying
doesn't
is
do
not
it.
going to do much of anything.
Yeah, Calcano wants something like Chromatic Sphere or Star into Boseiju, perhaps, or an Oblivion Stone here would have been okay.
It's Grief again, down
Second
to
main phase.
8.
Evoke Grief,
This is
exile
another
Grief.
copy of Grief, discarding a Grief.
Okay.
There are 2 copies of Karn the Great Creator. Can't break those up. Can take one of them. So right now for Calcano, he needs a land or something that's like a land to be able to cast Karn this turn.
Is it Karn for Ensnaring Bridge again? Now remember, this attack next turn puts Calcano down to 4. Jake Beardsley does have a Lightning Bolt, so that's 1.
That's right.
But not 0.
That's not 0.
Grief
So
is down.
Calcano needs an untapped land next turn to have a chance.
That's right. Whew, boy. And you can see Calc knows it. He knows it, and Jake's fingers are crossed.
Flatten.
Boom.
No.
That's Wormcoil Engine.
That might do it.
And he's going to pass the turn back. Will Calcano in for 4
No
with
land.
Grief. Beardsley with the Fury. And
don't
we'll
think he
pass
has a
the
draw.
turn back, and I don't think he does either, partner. And Christian Calcano will extend the hand. Jake Beardsley is your Pro Tour, the Lord of the Rings champion.
Incredible. Welcome to the Pro Tour. Isn't that what the pros are supposed to say to the new guys?
Not a bad debut.
Not a bad debut whatsoever. Congratulations to Jake Beardsley. You see him there with his girlfriend. Oh my goodness. What a way to celebrate your birthday, your first Pro Tour. And we're going to see him at the World Championship.
Oh, yes, we are. This is not the last time we are going to see Jake Beardsley play the most played deck on the weekend. And oh, by the way, this was his first time playing against Tron the entire weekend. He stands tall, and I'll tell you, that has a ring to it. He's our champion, Paul.
Yeah. And what a champion. Just cool, calm, collected the entire way when others may have buckled, right? And of course, everybody congratulating a worthy finalist here in Christian Calcano.
Oh, yeah. Christian Calcano, that game 4, that will go down as one of the best games of Magic we have ever had the opportunity to watch, and probably one of the best games Christian's ever played to be able to force that game 5. But at the end of the day, the reason this Evoke deck is so powerful and is played so much, Paul, it starts like that.
Yeah. I mean, what better way, right? You're like, game 5 of the finals. You go, these are the cards that I want. I want an Evoke card. I want a Feign Death. And I want a Blood Moon. Just to see that all in your face. I mean, can you imagine what you're thinking when you see that in your opening hand?
Oh. I'd be thinking, I've got it.
You've got it.
I think I'm going to win.
I'm going to win.
Yeah.
This is what you dream about.
Yeah.
Right?
An unbelievable run. An
It
unbelievable
is.
run. It's very few and far between that you see on the Pro Tour. Players in their first Pro Tour do well, let alone win the thing. These tournaments are very hard. Some of the game's absolute best. It took them a while to get started here. Now, of course, we've seen sustained success by your Johns and your Kais and your PVDDRs of the world. But to come here and break the door down, it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, and just from what I've seen over the course of this weekend, in terms of just Jake's level of play and excellence, I'm really excited to just continue to watch this guy play Magic.
This is a career to watch,
Yeah.
and it's just getting started. We are going to throw things over to our news desk. That, of course, is Maria, Monty, and Will.
Hey, thanks so much, Cedric, Maria, Monty, and Will here at the news desk with you. What an incredible tournament we've had so far this weekend. Congratulations to Jake Beardsley, our champion, and what a finals it was. Monty, final thought from you.